Hey everybody, welcome to another week of Big Balls Fantasy Football. The only show with powerful picks, sexy super fans, and that's really fun. I'm your host, diehard Bear fan, Greg Reifstick.
And I'm your co-host, Jenna Lee Borick. We've both been playing fantasy for a long time, and we love the Bears. And together we are the beauty
And the beast
of fantasy football experts.
So we made it through week one of the NFL. A lot of teams did great. But I'll tell you, there was a lot of wreckage out there. A lot of survival pools got killed. The Patriots lost. A lot of other big teams lost. Unfortunately, our Bears lost.
Yeah, our Bears did not play their best by any means, and it was a disappointing loss. It definitely was one of those games. It was a home game. You gotta take care of home field. I think we all thought the Bears would come out and play a lot better, even though Buffalo's defense is good, and we had talked about that. But, you know, I thought in the end we all figured the Bears would get it done, and they didn't.
But not only home, opening day at home. We rarely lose, and, you know, we thought that we had the Jay Cutler situation all figured out. You know, they let McCown go down to Tampa Bay, and we're like, we have some good backups. This is going to be fine. The offense is going to be fine. And then guess what? Old Jay showed up, didn't he?
He sure did. And, I mean, he had 2 interceptions. You know, he threw for 2 touchdowns, which was great. But the 2 interceptions. And what did I say, you know, in the offseason coming into this year? I said he's got to have a 2-to-1 touchdown ratio.
Yep. You
can't throw as many interceptions as you do touchdowns. That's just not going to happen. Or you can't throw more interceptions than touchdowns. And, you know, he has to protect the ball a lot more. That second interception, there was absolutely no excuse for. He needed to throw it out.
He threw it right into the guy.
He
threw
was
it right into
ridiculous.
the defender. It was just so sad. You know, we were watching the game, and we were just like, it was like you had these good feelings, but you had this, like, horrible, overbearing doom that it was like, and our defense actually, I think they played pretty darn well considering the circumstances of all of the turnovers.
Yeah, our defense didn't play that bad. You know, they played much better, I thought, than they did in preseason. Even though looking at the stats, some of the stats don't really show, I think, how they played. I think our D-line played pretty doggone good.
Yeah.
And I do think they're just going to keep coming together and gelling a lot more. The thing is, you know, they gave up a lot of rushing yards, obviously, but a lot of those were long runs. So a couple coverages that broke down and the running backs broke out. But when you were just looking at it down by down, they were pretty much stopping the run. Willie Young had a sack. He had some key tackle for losses.
He had a damn good game.
Willie Young looked great. You know, so I really do think our D-line is going to be okay. And our safeties didn't look as bad as I thought they would either. Conti had an interception, which was great. To me, it was the linebackers are a problem. As soon as the running backs get past the defensive line, the linebackers are not doing their job to stop them and tackle. And our corners were a little more sketchy than I thought they would be. I mean, you have 2 Pro Bowl corners in Jennings and Tillman. And even though E.J. Manuel didn't pass a lot, and that's why we didn't give up a lot of passing yards. You look at it and it's like, oh, we didn't give up that many yards. But E.J. Manuel wasn't throwing the ball a lot.
No.
But when he was throwing it, our coverage for our corners did not seem to be there. I know Jennings got beat on a key play.
Yeah.
So
very early on in the game. But, I mean, the fact is, I mean, fantasy-wise for the Bears, even if you played Jay Cutler, even with the 2 picks, you did make it out pretty good. 34 for 49 passing, 349 yards. As she already said, 2 for 2 on the touchdown to pick ratio. But, and then, thank goodness, you had my man here, Matt Forte, who I have on a fantasy team. And damn it, Prost, you didn't break him this week, thank God. And usually if they make it past the first week, they're safe from Prost, thank you, God. So 17 carries for 82 yards. The key is he had 8 catches for 87 yards, 169 all-purpose yards for Forte. You will take that any day in fantasy. That is like a gift. So, you know, the Bills' defense wasn't playing all that great either. I mean, it was a chess match the entire game.
No, and I have to absolutely say that our offensive line completely held up against that front for the Buffalo Bills, and their front is very good, so that was a good thing to see. We did have a couple people go down injury-wise. Garza has a high ankle sprain, and then Slauson has an ankle sprain, but hopefully his isn't as serious.
But they'll be out for a few weeks, and we picked up somebody today to fill one of the gaps for some depth. And I mean, they play even after they went out. We had good protection. The problem is Cutler he turned into pick man Cutler. Damn you! Not in the second game.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely made it a long day. But so for the wide receivers, fantasy-wise, Marshall had a pretty good day. He had 8 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown, but he had a very rare fumble. He does not make those type of mistakes very often, so hopefully it was just first game kind of jitters and being out there the first time for a real game. But yeah, he had a fumble, and he was a little gimpy. He was a little gimpy throughout the end of the game. And then Alshon, he missed the fourth quarter and overtime, and he finished with 5 catches for our stats are wrong. Not 7 yards, 70? 70 yards.
Misprint. Sorry. Thank you, printer.
So he had one long bomb that Cutler threw him right in the beginning of the game, and that was actually where most of his yards came from. But again, he's out with a hamstring. We're not really sure. Trustman's saying that it's minor. It doesn't look that bad. But hammies for a wide receiver is always a scary thing. So and I think having him out, really changed things when you're talking about an overtime drive. I mean, we couldn't do anything in overtime, and he's a key guy that you want to have out there when you're trying to move the ball downfield.
Definitely. So we weren't the only train wreck this week in the NFL. Let's just keep this to be the theme because there was a lot of weird stuff going on. First of all, we all know about Ray Rice. It's been all over the place. They've asked every single person their opinion about this. I mean, my only soapbox thing I've already said on the site is Goodell and the NFL really messed up, and we're not the only ones saying it. It's pretty bad when you have even the NFL Network saying, guys, they've been lenient about it, but like ESPN has been skewing them. I mean, he knew what happened. They were lenient at first, and now, they're trying to make up for it, and, they should have done the right thing in the first place.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to remember too is that when it comes to the law system, the system actually didn't do anything. He's not in jail, he's not serving any time, and then you look at a situation like with what Vic went through, even though he did something that was wrong and illegal. He went to prison.
Yes.
And Ray Rice is just sitting, on his couch at home, still playing football, suspended 2 games. That's what it was at first.
Of course.
And everyone's kind of scratching their head and saying, this doesn't really seem right. And I think that, the video coming out, I know the Ravens hadn't seen it. I don't think anyone had seen it. I don't think Roger Goodell had seen it. But that was just something that exploded the whole situation, into something that now they're backtracking, having to figure out, okay, well, what could we do? Now we have to do something extreme. But, the wrong message was sent. They should have done something extreme to begin with without having to see a video.
Well, we saw a video of him dragging her.
Yeah.
You'd think
she was out cold.
You think that would be enough. Now, I am shocked, after you see him strike her, how the hell do you think she got there in the first place? She didn't trip. So, we're the fantasy implications are that you have Bernard Pierce and you have the other running back over there, that their stock is going... Forsett is going way up for the Ravens. And Forsett got most of the touches last week and got a whole hell of a lot of yards. I got news for you. I picked him up in one of my leagues because he was just sitting out there. So, hey, nice backup, if he starts producing, why not?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be an interesting situation. If you're in a deep league, for sure, I think he's a guy, he's out there, you can go grab him. We're just not really sure what they're going to do because they benched Bernard Pierce because he fumbled.
Right.
So, it was kind of like, all right, we're going to punish him for fumbling. Yeah. But what will the carries look like as the season goes on? I think we really totally won't know. But yeah, Rice for sure is done. And I personally think most likely his career is over.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Goodell actually did release a quote today, which is the dumbest quote ever, saying, he does have a chance of possibly being reinstated in the league with what's happened with other players. I think that's a horrible thing to say. I think Goodell's setting himself up to get canned. Because it's just despicable. It's days after this tape comes out, and it's days after you release him. If I were Goodell, I would just stay out of the press, and I'd lay low. Let's play some football, everybody. Let's not shine this over, of course, but, the CNNs and the TMZs, they're going to try it in the media enough. Why be a league that's just going to perpetuate it even more?
Yeah, I mean, it was way too soon of him to make that comment. Yeah. Even if something down the line, they were seeing some things and were thinking, okay, maybe we can reinstate him, when you're talking months and months later. But you really can't make that type of comment when everyone is just flooding the internet to see the video. Yeah. It's way too soon. So way too soon. Not good.
Definitely. Other train wrecks yesterday. We, I almost had a train wreck. Cam Newton, as everybody knows, that owns him. You might have left him in, and you might have gotten burned yesterday. I was sitting watching the Bears game, and I was just agonizing. And, of course, I'm like, well, I'll throw in Andy Dalton. I'll throw in this. And I'm like, crap, the only backups I had picked up were people that were already playing in the morning.
I had reminded him. I was like, yes. You can't play that person. He's on the field already.
So what do you do in that situation? You go get the backup. And I went and got Derek Anderson, and he actually got me 20 points. 20 is better than nothing. Now Cam Newton will be starting next week. It is dumped Derek Anderson again. But always be careful of your lineup. In one of my other leagues, my work league that Jen Lee is also in, one of the guys, he left him in. And he was basically drawing dead, in the game. Because if you don't get any quarterback points, especially in PPR, you're really screwed.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to leave anyone just out there, on your lineup that doesn't even play, I mean, you might have someone not get you any points, they just had a terrible day,
right.
But you need them to be on the field. Yeah. So, and you always got to watch out for those afternoon and the night games and the Monday night games when a player is questionable because, again, that's a big risk if you don't know for sure that they're going to go. A probable tag is pretty much that person's always going to go unless they have a setback in warm-ups or something. But, if it's a questionable tag, you really got to, back yourself up and put someone else in.
Definitely. Did you have any problems in your lineup?
I did. I actually got my butt beat in a couple leagues of just players underperforming that I'm not really worried about for the season. Mm-hmm. But
President Stacy. In mine, Jamal Charles.
I had Jamal in one too. So I'm not worried about these players down the line. So week one can be funny, and there's just certain weeks that you have bad matchups. I had a lot of bad matchups. But
then you had the quarterback.
I had Tony Romo, who obviously played like crap. I don't even know how many yards he had. But I do know that he had only one touchdown and 3 interceptions. It was like every time I was looking at the TV, he was throwing another pick. So he got me 11 points for a quarterback. Thank goodness I was already being blown out. I would have been mad if it was closer. I was already being blown out, so I was like, whatever. But I always want my quarterback to get me 20 points at least. Matt Ryan got me 44 in a league. But yeah, my minimum for quarterback is you got to get me 20. And my goodness, under 15 is just despicable.
Yeah. You might as well be drawing dead at that point. So let's get into the show. But before we start, we are starting our Kickstarter campaign this week. We want you to invest in the show, our show, your show, my show, her show, Zoe's show. Zoe wants you to, we've been pretty much financing this ourselves, and if you go on our Kickstarter page, basically all you have to do is go under Kickstarter.com and type in Big Balls Fantasy Football. You'll find us under the film and video. webisodes category, and there's a good amount of people out there, but you'll find us pretty easily. On this Thursday, we're going to post the link on our Facebook page. We are giving away autographed pictures of the cast. You can also get rewarded by beer steins. Yes, we are giving some glass beer steins. We're giving, what's very important, we are giving private consultations of our time. If you give enough, you will get us one-on-one online for either a 5-minute period or a 15-minute period, and we can revamp your lineup without you even having to watch the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's an awesome thing. It's going to help out our show, with all types of costs, advertising, when we travel. So, it's just go on there and, if you can give us $2, that's great. Whatever you can give, we absolutely appreciate it.
But if you want to get rewarded, the top prize, and I haven't even told her this, the $500 prize is, if you give that, there's only going to be 4 available. You get a quote-unquote date. That's male or female with any of the members. We are going to have a mid-season Big Balls mid-season barbecue, and that's where you can come party with us in LA. We're not going to cover your travel if you're outside of LA. But if you're in LA, you want to invest $500, you get all the prizes underneath, and then you get to come party with us, and we're of course going to film it here on Big Balls Fantasy Football. Are you excited about that or what?
I am excited. It's going to be fun. So
yeah,
I hope,
especially because we're going to probably give up your barbecue place.
So yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. And like I said, we appreciate anything you guys can do, but we have the really special prizes as you give more.
Yep, definitely. Okay, let's get into who's going to go first this week.
You're going to go first this week.
I'm going to go first this week. We're going to have my Beast Mode picks coming up right after this. Hey everybody, welcome back here to Beast Mode here on Big Balls Fantasy Football. I have 3 Beast Mode picks for you this week. You're just going to be able to tear the head off of the competition. My first pick this week is Cordarrelle Patterson of the Vikings. He's a 2-balls pick because you're playing him up against the 12th ranked Patriots defense. It's pretty obvious. You're playing the trends. You're just going with a really kick-ass player against, it's not a horrible defense, but it's a defense that definitely can be exposed. And because he beasted out so badly last week, you're really going to be able to take advantage, I think. Caught 3 of 5 targets for 26 yards. Of course, that isn't enough. The reason you need to play him is Norv Turner is a horrible head coach, but is an awesome offensive coordinator, and he just used and abused him running. Definitely took the wide receiver position, had some fun with it, ran him on end arounds, slammed him up the middle one time, rushed for 102 yards and 1 touchdown on 3 carries, demolishing the Rams. It looked just really disgusting. And when he did slam it up the middle, it went for 67 yards for a touchdown. So Peterson definitely had a really good coming out party this season. I look for him to do just as well this week. Maybe not quite as well, but he's definitely going to get you some solid mid to high double-digit points. My second pick is Brandon Cooks of the Saints, going up against the very, very lackluster Browns 24th ranked defense. This is a no-brainer, everybody. It's another 2-ball. Well, it's not a no-brainer 1-balls pick. It's a 2-balls pick. Again, playing the trends against a really crappy defense. I've been touting Brandon Cooks as one of my sleeper wide receivers of the season. I'm backing him up by giving him to you as a pick this week, especially against this defense. He exploded for 86 total yards and a score in the first half of the Atlanta game. Atlanta tightened up against him in the second half, but hey, I'll take those points any day in fantasy. And basically, he is creating a very good chemistry with Breeze. You can already tell you're going to have a Mardi Gras with him this season if you just keep playing him and you just keep playing him. Marque Colston as we all know, didn't do quite as well this game. So I think Cooks is going to be the one in this steeplechase of wide receivers that's going to be getting a lot more looks since Colston is showing a little bit, getting a little bit old in the tooth. My third pick is a don't pick. I'm doing it this week instead of generally. We're going to switch off each week and give you one of these. Do not play Andrew Luck on Monday Night Football up against the Eagles. The Eagles have a damn solid defense. They're ranked 5th right now. I mean, you saw what happened with them up against Denver, and Denver's defense isn't half as good as Philadelphia's. It's just not going to be a good situation. I definitely wouldn't play him. Chip Kelly really figures out strategies in the second halves of games and always lowers the boom. You might get some first half stats out of Luck, but then in the second half, Chip Kelly always figures it out. He did it this week, week 1. Everybody was looking at the scoreboards. We were, when we were watching the Bears game, going, wow, 17-0. Damn, Jacksonville's just going to blow out the Eagles. Second half, Chip Kelly figures it out, turns it right back around. He's going to do the same thing with the Colts this week. So those are my 3 beast mode picks. Let's go on to Jen Lee and her real men.
I need a real man. Have you seen him?
Hi, and welcome to week 2 of my Real Men segment. I have 3 real men for you guys to start this week that should get you some fantasy points. We're going to get you more fantasy points with this segment than we did last week. But hey, Megatron balled out for you, so I did call that one right on the dot. So yes, we're in week 2 of the NFL. My first pick is going to be Arizona's defense. Now, they're a 2-balls pick. They might be out there on a lot of waiver wires. Some people just pick up a different defense every week and don't keep a defense. But I definitely like how they've started out the season so far. They did not give up a touchdown until the 3rd quarter of last game's night against an offense that last year was doing pretty well and a team last year that made the playoffs. So that was definitely great. They gave up less than 300 yards of offense, and right now they're ranking 2nd against the run. They play the Giants this week in New York, but let's face it, the Giants look like a disaster again this year. They don't have their ish together. Eli had 2 interceptions against the Lions, and he threw for less than 200 yards. So if they're going to try to lean on the run, that's going to be hard because Arizona was shutting down the run. And if Eli is going to start throwing the ball a lot, that's probably going to be a problem because Arizona's defense is going to get you those interceptions. It's going to be a problem for the Giants, that is. And safety Tyrann Mathieu could return. That is a little bit up in the air. He didn't play this week, but he might come back for week 2. Now, what you do need to watch with Arizona's defense as the week continues is linebacker Abraham. He possibly has a concussion, so you're going to have to watch that because he is one of their strongest linebackers they have. But I wouldn't be too worried. They're going up against an offense that just looks like a mess and does not look like they're in sync quite yet. So my second real man pick is wide receiver Jeremy Maclin, and he's a 2-balls pick as well. I don't think he's a guy that's going to ball out necessarily every week, but when he has good matchups, you got to get him in your lineup, and this is one of those weeks. He had only 4 catches, but he did have 97 yards and a touchdown on those 4 catches. But what I really looked at is he was targeted 10 times. So Nick Foles is looking his way. And hey, the more targets you get, the more chances you get at catching those balls. The Colts gave up 3 passing touchdowns against the Broncos. And the Broncos got off to such a fast start that they didn't have to pass the ball quite as much. They were able to start just kind of running the ball. So the Colts really were struggling against the pass and giving up touchdowns. And Cooper is not as talented. We know he doesn't have quite the speed and talent that Jeremy Maclin has. So besides Maclin, Cooper's the second receiver out there, and then Jordan Matthews is also there. Jordan Matthews is a rookie, so they might be trying to get him going, but Macklin's going to be the first one that Foles looks to. And I am going to disagree a tad bit with Greg. I think this actually might be a close game. It's the Colts' first game at home. They lost to the Broncos, so they desperately need a win. and neither defense is balling out of control yet. It is only week 2, so we can't judge too much. I think it could end up being a game that there's going to be a little bit of, it's going to be close. So I think that each team is going to have to throw the ball, and it might come down to the passing game. And my third pick for this week, this is a ballsy one. I'm going to try to give you ballsy ones this year, is running back Carlos Hyde. This is a 4 balls pick on the scale. This is not a guy you're going to start every week. But if you have an injured running back or you need someone for your flex position, you could pick him up and he could end up getting it done for you this week. Fingers crossed. He did vulture a touchdown from Frank Gore in the game against Dallas. I know Greg was upset about that. But so he's going to be the guy that possibly they're going to give it to on the goal line. Again, I'm picking a player against my Bears defense. I feel a little bad about it, but hey, the Bears gave up 193 rushing yards like we talked about earlier, and that's the 8th most fantasy points to running backs that they gave up in week 1. A bunch of those runs came on long runs, but, you know, the San Francisco 49ers are going to run the ball. It's their first game in their new stadium. It's Sunday Night Football. They're going to want to put on a show. And like I mentioned before, the Bears linebackers are not playing that well. So if our D-line doesn't stop Gore and Carlos Hyde, we are going to have some problems, and they're going to be getting those big runs. So Hyde is the young guy there in San Fran. You know, San Fran likes to lean on that running game, and he's just a guy, again, that I think might get you some points. You might be surprised in your flex position. So those are my 3 Real Men picks for this week. Now, don't forget to check us out on our social media. Facebook is facebook.com/BigBallsFantasyFootball. And we want you to ask us some questions on there. Also ask us questions on our Twitter @BigBallsFBall so that we can be answering stuff weekly for you guys. We'll answer it on here. We'll answer it on our Saturday podcast. Our podcast is blogtalkradio.com/GRR. We do that every Saturday. And of course, you can just find everything we have for you at BigBallsFantasyFootball.com. So now we had a little bit of fun this week. We normally do our season opener at Tin Horn Flats, our Bears bar in Burbank. But it got crazy. It was super packed. We had some issues with our seating, so it was just very hard to get out there and film like we wanted to and like we normally do. But we did get to film at Outpost with Lexi. She's one of our sexy super fans that's on our show quite a bit. Huge Broncos fan. And so we were there at Outpost talking to some fans and having some fun, and we want to share that footage with you guys.
Big Balls Fantasy Football here at Denver Broncos football here at the Outpost, of course, as we always are. We're going to have Lexi, our sexy super fan, later, but we are talking about the Bears that happened earlier today in fantasy football. Jenny's going to bring us up to speed on that.
So we usually do something at our Bears bar, but it got a little bit crazy down there today. So
we'll talk about that later.
We are catching you up from the Outpost before the Broncos game. Fantasy-wise, it was okay for some Bears players. Martellus Bennett had a touchdown. Brendan Marshall had a touchdown. And Forte had about 82 rushing yards, I think, and another 80-something receiving yards. So if you're in a PPR league, that really helped you out. Unfortunately, Cutler didn't have the best day. He had 2 interceptions. He had some good yardage, 2 touchdowns, but those 2 picks did not help you out at all. Lee Marsh also had a fumble, and our defense looked so-so.
Yeah, but I mean, Cutler, just for the sake of fantasy, in a few of my leagues, we had almost 40 or 50 points in some of the leagues. So, I mean, you know, you didn't do bad with him, but you need to stick with the people that are very reliable in your fantasy leagues. Cutler isn't really a sure thing yet, so come on through. Come on through. So, I mean, yeah, the Bears lost, unfortunately, but we are ready for Colts and Broncos football. What do you think of the fantasy implications on this game?
I think this one could be be very interesting. You have Andrew Luck against Peyton Manning. It could end up being a little bit of a shootout, but do not forget about the defenses. The Colts' front is actually pretty good at stopping the run, and Denver's defense is highly improved from last year. They got a lot of new players in their secondary. They got DeMarcus Ware on their defensive line. So it could be a very interesting matchup. I do look for Demaryius Thomas to beast out completely. He's going to be a guy with Wes Welker out that Peyton Manning relies on. So definitely he should get you some points. I also look for Reggie Wayne and T.Y. Hill to do some stuff fantasy-wise as well.
But in a minute, we're going to have Sexy Lexi giving you the Denver Broncos fantasy outlook for this game. Just wait a minute, it's coming up. Big Ball's Fantasy Football here at the Outpost, the only place to watch Denver Broncos football. We have Sexy Lexi, our super fan, who's going to give you the rundown on your fantasy outlook for the Broncos. Take it away.
Any Bronco team player you have on your roster, you're gonna win. I'm sorry. This is gonna be our. We're gonna do a redemption here. I think from the Seahawks. So horrible. Let's not go back. Let's think about the future.
Yeah. So, what are some of the key players you think that are going to put us some fantasy points this game?
Julius Thomas, love him. Yeah. I'm really upset about Wes Walker being out. Walker. I don't think whatever he did, I don't care as long as he played a good game. So whatever. I think being suspended for 4 games is not a good thing, but I think they'll definitely target Thomas. He's just awesome. Do you not see all the catches?
Oh, totally. He's definitely going to be your tight end threat. And then, what about at wide receiver? Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah, he's going to be good. I'm just right now focused on Peyton Manning for this game because he's playing against the Colts.
How many touchdowns do you think Peyton Manning is going to get this game?
I want to say 20, but that's a little realistic.
20 points, which means
no, I'm saying 20 touchdowns. I want 20 touchdowns,
yeah.
But I'm thinking he can probably do it for this game.
Okay, that means 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns.
I'm sorry, I am just really excited about this.
She is really excited. That's why she's one of our super fans.
I'm not even thinking right. I've been here since 2 o'clock for this game to start happening.
Yep.
So we have what, 5 more minutes?
Exactly. 5 minutes to kick off for Denver. Let us go to the game and we'll show you a little bit later.
Woo! My hustling, baby.
Yep. Yeah. Big Balls Fantasy Football here at the Outpost with the best goddamn Broncos fans here ever. So, Johnny, tell me the fantasy outlook right here at the half. Julius Thomas, star player. Tell me what's going on.
Well, he's a freaking stud. He's one of the top 3 tight end in the league. He's got 3 touchdowns right now, 100 yards.
Yep.
If you did not draft and start Thomas today, you're a damn fool.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Hell yeah.
Because he's a stud. He's bringing it. Orange Julius, number 80 Broncos. Yeah. Remember that one too. It's gonna be all season. This ain't just one game.
Tell me who else is going to be doing good in the next few games. Do you have any Broncos on your fantasy team?
No, I don't. I don't play fantasy.
He doesn't play fantasy, but that's all right.
I'm still learning. I don't even know. I'm learning.
That's all right. That's all right. That's why we're teaching here, man. But who do you think is going to do good for the rest of the season?
Well, you can't go wrong with Peyton Manning, number 18.
He's
You'll never go wrong there. He's going to put up crazy numbers almost week in, week out. Demaryius Thomas.
Sanders is doing
He's going to be great. Daniel Sanders, I think he's going to get this. Today, so far, he's got some big catches. He's got that speed. And with Walker out, he's going to target him a lot more. So he's kind of a sleeper, I feel. So if you have Emmanuel Sanders, start him. If you don't, pick him up.
Definitely Emmanuel Sanders. All right. Here from the Outpost.
Woo!
Check it out. What's the score? What's the score of the game?
24-7. Good job.
24-7. Victory dance. Let's go. Yeah. Wait.
You gotta do the my house salute.
What's the final score?
31-10.
24.
31-24.
31-24.
Oh, 31-24.
All right.
32 against the Packers.
Right, we
Remember that?
got it. We are undefeated so far.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.